Washington State University women's basketball team, fresh off a trip to Hawaii, they return to the snow-covered hills of the Palouse and back to Beasley Coliseum as they get ready for non-conference action tonight against South Dakota State. Hi again, everybody. Steve Grubbs heading your way as we get ready for some basketball action. The 4-1 Cougars taking on 4-2 South Dakota State here from inside Beasley Coliseum. The Washington State University Cougars went to Hawaii for a couple of games and did suffer their first loss of the season as they lost to BYU by a final score of 65-56. But the Cougars would come roaring back and had an 87-72 victory over the Troy Trojans, where they had a lot of offense and a lot of players in double digits. And Bella Murakatete, well, she would get things rolling for Washington State as she would not only pour in a bunch of points, but pull down a bunch of rebounds as she finished with the double-double. And, of course, Charlize Ledger-Walker was there to help the Cougars not only pick up a victory over Troy, but thanks to margin of victory, they end up winning the North Shore Showcase as they get it done in Hawaii, splitting their two games and improving their mark to 4-1 on the season. Bella in the two games, 14 points and 9 rebounds is what she averaged. Meanwhile, for Charlize Ledger-Walker, she averaged 17.5 points as well for Washington State. Meanwhile, for South Dakota State, down in the Bahamas, they take on one of the best teams in America, the Louisville Cardinals. And it was the South Dakota State Jackrabbits with a victory over Louisville as they pull off the top 10 upset as they take down Louisville by a final score of 65-55. And with that, they roll into Pullman with a 4-2 mark on the season. How about Maya Sellen, 25 points and 11 boards? Peyton Burkhardt, she was good as well for the Jackrabbits, and they are sure to provide a test for the Cougars tonight. Jackrabbits 4-2 on the season. The Cougars 4-1. Tip-off and starting lineups next from Beasley Coliseum.
But tonight, it's basketball, and glad to have you with us wherever you may be as we get you ready for Washington State and South Dakota State, as this one should be a fun one. The Cougars 4-1, of course, a couple of consecutive trips to the NCAA tournament. Aaron Johnston always has a formidable South Dakota State team, and again, you take a look at their two losses this season to Creighton to open up the season. UCLA add in a couple of really impressive wins over not only Rutgers, but of course their last win over a top 10 team in Louisville. And everybody's got their eyes on South Dakota State, and now they get ready to take on another Power 5 team. Michael Price, Kyle Bacon, and Felicity Willis, your officials, as Felicity Willis will have the honor of getting things started. She'll step between Bella Murakatete and also the South Dakota State jumper. That is Maya Sellen. Bella wins the tip. We're underway from Pullman on a Monday night for some Monday night basketball action. All right, Charlize Ledger-Walker goes around, drives it to the rim. That one won't go. Battle for the rebound will kick loose to South Dakota State, and the Jackrabbits now ready to get their first offensive possession underway. Colbeck has it top of the key, comes over near side to Sellen. She fakes to the left, goes to the right, goes into the paint, guarded there by Ula Matuga. Tries to kick it back out, getting a hand on its header to send it back into backcourt. But back to receive it will be Colbeck, and they will reset with now 9 left on the shot clock. They feed it in low. That shot's going to go up and good. And that'll be from Peyton Brookard as she ends up getting the first basket of the ball game, and it's 2-0 in favor of South Dakota State. So the Jackrabbits able to draw first blood here today. All right, Washington State now with it for their second offensive possession. Pass goes to Tedder. 3-ball on the way. That one rims off no good. There for the rebound will be Bookard, and now it'll be the Jackrabbits back across the timeline and into forecourt. Nelson will screen over to the right side, driving into the paint, right inside the free throw line. A little crossover move, a little up and under. Bell at least altered the shot, then comes down with it. And the outlet pass to Charlize Ledger-Walker, and the Cougars will bring it the other way. Charlize into the lane, kicks it over to Tedder, open. Another 3-ball on the way. That one good from the corner pocket from Johanna Tedder. And the Cougars have their first 3 of the contest, and they take their first lead. It's now 3-2 Washington State, just over a minute and a half in. Over to the right-hand side, driving into the paint goes South Dakota State. Little 12-footer, that one good from Nelson, as it was Tori Nelson with the open look, and she now gives South Dakota State a 4-3 advantage. Washington State back across the timeline. Charlize Ledger-Walker kicks it into the corner to Wallach, tries to go inside to Bella Mercatete, loses the handle, but gets it back, fires it outside to Tedder, back inside to Bella. She'll lean in, puts it up with the left hand, but it won't go. And the rebound comes down to Burkhardt for South Dakota State. Jackrabbits will put up a 17-footer from the right elbow. That one off the mark. Fight for the rebound. Kicks off to South Dakota State. They'll get a fresh 20. Sellen to the free throw line. She'll put one up from 15. That one dances on the rim but falls off. And Bella Murakatete down with the rebound. Charlize Ledger-Walker will take it into forecourt. Wallach back up top to Murakatete. For the most part, South Dakota State will play man, you would think, throughout the evening. Pass comes into the corner to Ulamatuga. Goes backdoor, but right there, nobody open. Bella was not cutting, and it's a easy steal and a turnover for Washington State as South Dakota State has got it back. Nelson into the lane working against Motuga. Tries to get around her. Bella comes over for help. They're going to call it off the leg of Bella and put the shot clock to 20, and with 7:01, South Dakota State will inbound on the baseline. 4-3 South Dakota State here early going. Almost 3 minutes in, and for the Jackrabbits, they'll inbound on the baseline. Transfer out of Utah, Drew Gilton has checked in. She will inbound. Now she'll take over at the three-point arc. A player the Cougars are extremely familiar with. A nice little dish and assist for Drew. That's going to be a bucket for the other new player, and that's Callie Thiessen. So she puts it up and in, and it's 6-3 South Dakota State here in the early going as we play just a little over 3 minutes into the opening quarter. Wallach gets a screen from Bella, drives it to the lane, puts up a shot, blocked away, and then keeping it in bounds will be South Dakota State. Now they'll take it the other way. They want to push. Now we'll wait for trailers. Comes back out to Selland. Selland will give it to Nelson at the three-point arc. Bella out on her. Goes back to Selland, working against Motuga. Kicks out, three ball on the way. That one's going to go off the iron, no good, and a weak side rebound to Ula Motuga. Tedder across the timeline for Washington State. She's got the 3 points for the Cougars on a three ball early. Now it'll go to Charlize Ledger-Walker. Back out top to Tedder, who will direct traffic out high on the right. 6 and counting left to play in the first. It's 6-3 South Dakota State. Charlize Ledger-Walker to the free throw line. Tries to hit Bella Murakatete, but the Jackrabbits get a hand on it, and they'll come away with the steal. Timmer across the timeline, all the way to the rack. That one blocked away by Tara Wallach, and it will stay with South Dakota State. Into the game will come Meyer for the Jackrabbits. Meanwhile, Sarah Tuhina will check in for Washington State. She'll come in for Motuga. 23 left on the shot clock, 5:39 left to play in the first. 6-3 South Dakota State. Nelson gives it up to the top of the key to Timmer. Timmer will pass back near side. Gilton three ball on the way. That one good. So Drew Gilton hits the triple. South Dakota State now with a little bit of a run here. They've scored 7 points in the last 2:45. It's been a little over 3 minutes for the Cougars since the Tedder bucket, and it is a 9-3 South Dakota State lead, and a three ball on the way from Charlize Ledger-Walker off the mark. Tara Wallach ties up the South Dakota State rebounder. It'll be a possession arrow to South Dakota State. So ball will go over to the Jackrabbits off the alternating possession arrow. As the Cougars have started off a little slow here. 1 for their first 6. South Dakota State 4 for 9 to get things started. Gilton again near side. Feeds it inside to Timmer. Puts one up. That one off the rim after a couple of bounces. And Wallach down at the rebound. Cougars will push up the far sideline. They get it inside the Murakatete. Kicks it back out to Wallach. Now it goes to Tuhina. Tuhina takes it to the right elbow of the key before kicking out to Tedder. Now Bella with it. She's going to have it. Ball knocked away from her. Goes down to the floor to retrieve it. Will get tied up. It's a jump ball. And it'll be Cougar basketball after we take our first in-game timeout from Pullman. 4:34 left to play here. Opening quarter. South Dakota State off to a 9-3 start here this evening. South Dakota State 4 out of 10. They've had 4 different Jackrabbits into the scoring column. Meanwhile, Joanna Tedder, the only 3 so far for Washington State, and that came with 8:35 left to play in the first. We're down to 4:34 left to play, so it's just over 4 minutes since the last time the Cougars put points on the board. Tedder's going to fake a 3, now fires one up. That one spins around, does a 360 on the rim and falls off, and the Rebound comes down to South Dakota State. So the Jackrabbits with the 6-point lead. Gilton working against Tedder. She hands off, gets it back on the baseline. Then they kick out to the 3-point arc. With it there is Selland. Now we've got a foul away from the ball, and it's going to be a hold called on Estera Tuhina. That's the first foul on either team in this one. And it took 5 minutes and 48 seconds to log the first foul. So 4:12 left to play in the first. Again, a 6-point lead for South Dakota State at 9-3. Gilton curls to the free throw line, feeds it inside. Little left-handed shot in low from Thiessen, who puts it up and in for her second bucket. And now South Dakota State on a 9-0 run, It's 11-3. Tedder going to try and break that up with the three from the corner, but it's off the mark. Tuhina got the rebound in traffic, kicks it back out to Charlize Ledger-Walker. Now Wallach with it. She's going to drive into the paint. The kick out to Tuhina for three. That one's on its way, no good. Tedder an offensive rebound. She's looking to kick out again. It comes out to Charlize Ledger-Walker. Cougars will reset. Tuhina tries to find Nan Curvis, but she wasn't ready for it, and Gilton takes it away. And now South Dakota State in transition. Pass goes in low, in and out of the hands of, that time, Selland, and it'll go to Washington State. Well, again, the Cougars just 1 out of 9, and the drought has now reached 5 1/4 minutes. They've also committed 3 turnovers here in the opening quarter, and not quite the offensive start they wanted here tonight, down 11-3. Charlize Ledger-Walker with the 3-ball, off the mark. Rebound to South Dakota State. Gilton up the near sideline, left-handed dribble against Tedder, now rotates it over to the right hand. Passes off to Selland. Into the corner it goes. Back to Selland. She goes across the paint to Meyer. That one won't go. Gets her own rebound. Puts that one up. That one blocked away. Gets it back again, though. Then tries to clear some space. Charlize Ledger-Walker falls down. No whistle, though. And Selland's going to hit the three from the top of the key. So Selland with a triple. 12 straight now for South Dakota State. And they're off to a 14-3 advantage. Tedder now backs up. She'll put up a three. That one's up and good from Johanna Tedder. Well, it had been nearly 6 minutes since the Cougars had gotten their last bucket. That was a three from Tedder. Now another three, and that'll bring them to within 8 at 14-6. Burkhardt going to drive into the lane against Nanker with stops, gets cut off, passes outside to Selland. She penetrates in, gives it back to Burkhardt. That shot won't go. Battle for the rebound comes down to South Dakota State, though. They'll kick it out, driving in. Now cut off will be that Jackrabbit, and as they try and pass out, it's taken away by Washington State. 3-on-2, the pass ahead to Wallach, deflected, and it will stay with the Cougars in transition. Murakatete back in. She'll come in for Nan Curvis. Meanwhile, for South Dakota State, they've been a little more liberal with their substitutions. Back into the game for them will come Tori Nelson. That'll be the Cougars to inbound on the baseline with 1:51 left to play your opening stanza. It'll come out to Wallach at the head of the key. She gives it to Titina. Feeds it inside to Bella Murakatete. She's got it, spins to the left. That's going to be an offensive foul called on Bella. That'll be her first, second against the Cougars. Only 2 fouls whistled so far in the opening quarter, both against Washington State. The first going against Tuhina. So again, not a lot going on here as far as what the Cougars were hoping for offensively. Couple of threes from Tedder, but 2 out of 11 so far. Played pretty good defense. They've held South Dakota State to 14 at this stage, but need to get things going on the offensive end. Selland from 10 right of the paint. That one off the mark, no good. Offensive rebound, though, comes down to South Dakota State, and they get a second crack at it. Over it goes to Selland. She'll pump up a three. That one's off the mark, no good. Battle for the rebound. Wallach at it. And it comes loose. Tedder cleans it up for Washington State, and the Cougars back into forecourt. Goes inside to Murakatete. She's going to go to work around the right side. Puts it up off the window and good for Bella Murakatete. Tried to create some space with her arm and ultimately stayed away from an offensive foul and was able to get the bucket. Now on the other end, a three from the South Dakota State team off the mark. Long rebound down to Tahina. Long up court pass to Bella. Puts it up in transition. Won't go. Looks like there was a lot of action underneath, and they're not going to call it. And Cami Etheridge can't believe that contact wasn't called underneath the rim. Meanwhile, it's South Dakota State with it on the other end with 40 seconds left to play. Feeding it inside. Shot one will end up getting up and good for Peyton Burkhardt, who gives the points to South Dakota State. Well, half a minute to play. Shot clock turned off. Cougars can play for the final shot of the quarter here, trailing 16-8. Shot clock is again off, and we're down to 15 seconds left to play in the first. Tedder, top of the key, curls to the right, gives it to Wallach with 9 left. Now to Tahina. Back out Charlize Ledger-Walker with 4 seconds. Gives it to Wallach, head of the key, 3 on the way. Rims off, no good. And that'll take us to the end of the opening 10 minutes. Well, Washington State trailing South Dakota State. Cougars just 3 out of 14 in that opening period. Meanwhile, South Dakota State, they were 7 out of 18. And it's the Jackrabbits up by 8 here at the end of 10 in Pullman. All right, here we go. Quarter number 2. South Dakota State with it as we open up the second frame. Timmer with it at the left elbow of the key. Kicks it out to Nelson. Now inside to Burkhardt. Back out to Colbeck. Now inside to Burkhardt. Between a couple Cougar defenders. Can't get the shot to go. And in traffic, you want to Tedder down with the rebound. Charlize Ledger-Walker drifts in. Kicks out to a Tara Wallach 3 that's off the mark. And the rebound this time down to Maya Selland. She'll bring it up court herself all the way to the baseline and loses it off her leg, and will turn it over. Just a couple of turnovers in the opening quarter for South Dakota State, but an early one here in the third. Again, 16-8 right now in favor of South Dakota State. The Cougars, a couple of threes from Tedder and a bucket inside from Bella Murikatete, the only points in the opening quarter. Yo gives it to Bella. She goes through the lane, will draw a foul, and will head to the free throw line off a good pass from Johanna Tedder. Foul's going to go on Selland. The Cougars committed the only 2 fouls of the opening period. South Dakota State commits their first foul of the contest here 50 seconds into the second. Bella to the free throw line. First one on the way. That one in, out, and stays out. Bella at 14.5 points per game. 59% from the line so far this season for the 6'3" senior. Second one's up and good, so she's got 3 now. And it's now 16-9. Colbeck into the near corner to Timmer. Timmer looking inside. Nobody open. Passes along the perimeter. Goes over to the far side to Nelson, who takes it to the free throw line on the penetration. Now back out top. Burkhardt delivers to Colbeck, who will drive on Tahina. Bella comes over for help. Burkhardt from 18. That one's short, going after her own rebound, and then ends off the knee of Selland and out of bounds our way. And it'll be Washington State basketball. So the Cougars inbound here in front of their own bench. 8:43 left to play before halftime. It's, again, South Dakota State up 16-9 here, so we're just getting quarter number 2 underway here from Beasley on a Monday night. Tedder gives to Wallach, top of the key. She finds Charlize Ledger-Walker at the free throw line. Will drive, puts up a shot, blocked away, and it will stay with Washington State. 8:27 left to play before halftime. Still 15 left to shoot here for the Cougars, and Tahina will inbound. Cougar coaching staff talking to the officials about a potential foul, and they're explaining what they saw. Tahina at the head of the key. Now will drive in. Out top it comes to Tedder. Into Bella. Bella will go to the right, puts it up. That one rolls along the back of the rim and falls off. And then as Bella stayed back to try and get it back, a foul whistled against her. So that'll be a second personal foul on Bella Murikatete. That's the first against the Cougars here in the quarter. And with 8 and change left to play before halftime, it's a 7-point South Dakota State lead, and they've got the ball back. Pass comes to Gilton. Skips it over to the far side, and a travel whistle there against Haley Timmer as she shuffled her feet. Meanwhile, Cami Etheridge talking to Kyle Bacon again about the potential foul that they were discussing. Not necessarily a happy conversation, but I think a conversation where both parties were saying what they think they saw. Now, Murikatete at the foul line, drives in, gets cut off, puts up a shot, won't go, but draws the foul. That'll go on Peyton Burkhardt. She'll pick up her first. Meanwhile, back to the free throw line goes Bella Murikatete. Again, the senior from Rwanda has continued to improve over her Cougar career, pretty much in all phases of the game. First free throw is up, and that one is good. Average 5 points her freshman year, 8.5 her sophomore year, just over 10 last year, and is at 14.5 this year. Second free throw on the way, that one's good as well. By the way, at free throw line, she's gone from 52% to 70 to 72% last year, and now 3 for 4 in this one, and has 5 points, and the Cougars are back within 5. Selland gives it to the top of the key. Looking inside, Thiessen's got it. Now a foul whistle. Is that going to go on Charlize Ledger-Walker? They will call it on Charlize. That'll be her first. And now South Dakota State will get their first couple of free throws. It's a South Dakota State team that does get to the line quite a bit and have made their bread and butter at the free throw line. First free throw's off the mark, no good from Thiessen. She'll have another. But they've shot on the season 124 free throws compared to only 86 that they've allowed their opponents to shoot. 124 free throws, by the way, almost 21 per contest for South Dakota State. The one free throw makes it 17-11. It's South Dakota State by half a dozen. Tuhina in the corner, brings it back out to Tedder. Now Charlize Ledger-Walker giving to Bella, right back to Charlize at the three-point arc, drives in. Kicks out, Wallach at the three-point line. She'll drive it into the paint, scoops it up. That one off the iron, no good. And South Dakota State down with the rebound. Selland into the paint, stops, has nowhere to go with it, so will pass out beyond the arc to Gilton. Gilton fakes to the left, goes to the right. Now we'll give it to the free throw line for an open jumper. That one high off the rim and down into the hands of Bella Murikatete. She'll clean up the rebound for Washington State for her third board of the first half. Now Charlize gives it to Bella in low. She's going to be whistled for a travel inside. 6:37 left to play here, second quarter. It was 16-8 South Dakota State at the end of one. Not a lot of scoring here in the first 3.5 minutes of the second. The Cougars have 3 points, and South Dakota State the lone free throw so far in the quarter. Nelson from 16. Wallach might have gotten a piece of that, and Bella comes down with the rebound, and the Cougars want to push. Up court to Tedder. Tedder going to drive into the lane, tries to go to the rack with it, can't go, it's going to be lost. Charlize Ledger-Walker brings it, sends it outside to Walker, back to Tedder in the corner. Tedder going to go baseline, blew by the defender and puts it up and in off the glass and good. Johanna Tedder, 8 first half points, and the Cougars back within 4. Close as they've been since pretty early on in the first quarter. Cross-court pass almost into the Cougar bench, but a good save by Timmer to haul it down after going high into the air. Timmer gives it inside to Thiessen, working against Bella. Shot won't go. Rebound down to Charlize Ledger-Walker. Here come the Cougars the other way. Charlize gives it to Tuhina. Now Charlize Ledger-Walker inside to Bella, who puts it up and in. And the Cougars are within 2. They haven't been this close since it was 5-2 back in the opening frame. It's now 17-15 South Dakota State with just over 5 minutes to play in the second quarter. Selland misses a shot off the rim. Chance for the Cougars to tie or potentially take the lead with a 3 this trip down. With it now is Tedder. She gives it now to Murikatete. She's going to put one up from 17. That's just a little bit short. The rebound comes down to Selland. Bella feeling pretty good with her 7 first half points. Decided to see if she could hit one from the perimeter. Now the pass goes inside. Back out it will go to Gilton. She's going to drive in. Now out it comes to Timmer. Timmer going to drive into the paint. Puts up a shot off balance. Won't go. Rebound down to Charlize Ledger-Walker. South Dakota State on a pretty good drought now. It's 3.5 minutes and counting. Tedder to Murikatete at the top of the key with 4.5 left to play in the second. Tuhina gives it to Murikatete and out of the right side to Charlize Ledger-Walker. Gets the screen, takes it out to the top of the key. Another screen, starts to move in, got around the defender, trying to draw contact, can't, gets her own rebound though in that mess, but then can't get that one to fall, and the rebound cleared by South Dakota State. The Jackrabbits again only 1 point in the quarter so far as they've got it back on offense. Timmer goes into the near corner with it. Now they find Thiessen, drives into the lane, that ball ripped away by Tahina. 1-on-3, so they don't have numbers, but here come trailers. Charlize Ledger-Walker finds Tahina. She's going to drive in, puts up the shot, won't go. It's blocked out of bounds, and it will stay with Washington State. Well, not a lot of points in the second so far, but just about all of them have gone to the Cougars. 7 of the 8 so far. They've outscored South Dakota State 7-1 in the quarter. Cougars just 2 out of 9 in the quarter. But South Dakota State 0 for 7 so far in the first 6:10 of the second period. 3:50 to play before halftime. It's South Dakota State 17, Washington State 15 as we break away. This is Cougar women's basketball from Lairfield. Well, 3:50 left to play here before halftime. It is 17-15. South Dakota State still with a 2-point lead, but the Cougars have had just about all the momentum here in the second quarter. Again, South Dakota State, just a lone free throw in the period. They're 0 for 7 from the floor. Cougars only 2 out of 9, but they have outscored South Dakota State 7-1 and have gotten back to within 2 and have possession here. So a chance to tie with the 2, take the lead with the 3 as they inbound it to Tahina. Feed it inside to Charlize Ledger-Walker. She'll put it up off the window and good, and we are tied for the first time on the first basket of the game for Charlize Ledger-Walker. So 17 apiece now, and South Dakota State now with it. Pass comes up to the top to Meyer, gives it over here to the near side. Now to Timmer, over to the right-hand side to Meyer. They feed it back inside, making a way to the paint, putting up a shot. That one left short. The rebound comes down to Ula Motuga. And South Dakota State now 0 for 8 in the quarter from the floor. Motuga on a trailing 3, but decides not to fire. Instead, we'll give it to Charlize Ledger-Walker. Chance for the Cougars to grab the lead. They haven't had it since they were up 3-2 early. Motuga gets the contact. They're going to give her the bucket and a chance at a 3-point play. So Ula Motuga will draw the foul on Timmer. That'll be her first. And now the 5th-year player out of Logan, Australia, not only on the board for the first time, it gives the Cougars their first lead since they were up 3-2. Again, an 11-1 run over Washington State, and that free throw for South Dakota State came with 7.5 minutes to go. That's the only point they've had, and they haven't scored in 4.5 minutes. Meanwhile, the free throw missed, but it's off of South Dakota State and will stay with the Cougars. So the Cougars, thanks to their good work on the defensive end, have grabbed a 19-17 lead now with 3 minutes to play here before halftime and a chance now to extend the lead. Grace Sarver is checked in. She'll pass it to Wallach. Over it goes to Tahina. Back out top to Charlize Ledger-Walker. Now Wallach with it. Surveying the court. One dribble. Gives it back to Charlize. Charlize will get it inside to Tarek. Into the paint. She puts it up and in. Thank you, Charlize Ledger-Walker. And Tara Wallach on the board. The Cougars have their biggest lead of the night. They've outscored the Jackrabbits 13-1 here in the second quarter. Now have a 21-17 lead. Tahina giving Colbeck all she wants out at the 3-point line. Now the pass goes over to the right-hand side. They try and feed it inside, but that's off the foot of a Cougar. And it will stay with South Dakota State. Again, 5-10 now since the Jackrabbits have scored. And again, the only point they have scored has been a free throw. That's all that they've got so far in the quarter after having a 16-8 lead after one. Colbeck fires up a long-range 2 from 18. That's an air ball, and it's going to go to Washington State. 0 for 9 now in the quarter for South Dakota State. And the Cougars a chance now to try and build on what's their biggest lead of the contest. Again, led momentarily 3-2 before the Jackrabbits scored 9 in a row in the opening quarter. And after that, it was all South Dakota State before the Cougars recently took the lead back here late in the second quarter. 2:05 left to play before halftime, and an unforced turnover here from Washington State. The pass zigged while the player was zagging, and with that, a turnover, and it will go back over to South Dakota State. 2 minutes left to play in the second. Cougs by 4 here on their home court, taking on a South Dakota State coming off of an upset win over Louisville in the Bahamas, and now they'll throw it away. Not a ton of turnovers in this one, but most of them for South Dakota State have come in this second quarter. They had only 2 in the first, 4 here in the second, and now both teams with a half a dozen turnovers. 1 3/4 minutes left to play before halftime, and it's the Cougs by 4 here in the second. Skip pass into the corner, now Tahina with it. Out to Wallach, open for 3. That one's off the rim, no good. Up for the rebound will go Tori Nelson for South Dakota State. She'll bring it across the timeline herself, all the way down to the base. Back out to the three-point line, now to Burkhardt at the arc. Pass now to Gilton with Sarver on her. They'll switch and Tahina will take over. Pass goes back over to Nelson. Now they go inside with it. Back out it will come. Gilton fires up the 3. That one's off the back of the rim, no good. Big pile up for the rebound. Nelson with the loose change and gets fouled going back up with it, and the foul's going to go on Grace Sarver. Sarver will pick up her first. South Dakota State still hasn't made a field goal in the quarter. They're 0 for 11. 1 out of 2 so far from the free throw line, and a chance here for a couple of free throws for their first points in nearly 6.5 minutes. First free throw is up, and that one's off the mark, so they still haven't scored in 6.5 minutes, but Nelson will have a chance to try and bring South Dakota State their 18th point of the contest. Again, had 16 in the opening quarter. She sinks the free throw to end the drought, but they still don't have a field goal in the quarter. And it's a 3-point Washington State lead, 21-18. Charlize Ledger-Walker, a tough 17-footer in traffic that doesn't go. Rebound to Meyer, kicks it out to Gilton on the outlet. Across the timeline, looking inside, passes along the perimeter. Now they'll go back into the paint. Spinning goes Meyer, loses the ball. It's down loose on the deck, and it's going to say it last touched Washington State before it went out of bounds. 15 left on the shot clock, 37.9 left to play here in the first half, and what's been a low-scoring first 20 minutes from Pullman. Inbounds pass for South Dakota State. They'll feed it inside. Now a nice little pass in low. Burkhardt has it, will be fouled by Sarver, and will head to the free throw line. Grace is going to pick up her second. And it will send Burkhardt back to the free throw line. Cougs 3 out of 5 so far from the line. Meanwhile, for South Dakota State, to this point, just 2 out of 4, but they'll have a couple here from Burkhardt. Peyton, senior from Aberdeen, South Dakota. And gets ready for her first free throws of the evening. First one on the way, off the mark, no good. South Dakota State, pretty reliable shooting team from the line. 70%, not great, but not terrible either. Another free throw on the way. That one's good, so far just 50% today. And again, that's all 3 of their points in the quarter. But despite only having 3 points, remember they had the 8-point lead at the end of one, and the Cougars have only scored 13 in the quarter, so it's just a 2-point lead, and the Cougars with just a second between the shot clock and the first half clock will play for the final shot of the first half, or what they expect to be the final shot of the first half. Motuga's got it at the right elbow, gives it to Tedder with 6 left to shoot. She'll drive in, back out. Motuga, 3-ball on the way, off the front of the rim, no good. The South Dakota State team will put up a 3 at the midcourt stripe, and it will go as Ula Motuga. Ula Motuga providing a little distraction as she gave the half-court heave, and that will take us to the end of the first half of action. Fewest points allowed in the second quarter by Washington State since we've gone to the quarter system. Again, allowed only 3 points. South Dakota State did not hit a field goal. They were 0 for 10 from the floor, did have 3 free throws. And the Cougars outscored South Dakota State 13-3 in the second. But it was South Dakota State by 8 in the first, So as we arrive at halftime, it's just a 2-point Washington State lead. At the break, it's the Cougars 21, the Jackrabbits 19. We'll step away for halftime festivities, and we'll be back after this. It's Cougar women's basketball from Learfield. Well, we welcome you back again here to Pullman, Washington. 21-19 our score here at the break as we start your third quarter of action. Again, first quarter to South Dakota State, 16-8. The Cougars do not allow a Jackrabbit field goal in the second quarter and outscore them 13-3 in the second quarter. And we start off the third quarter with the Cougars up a couple. It'll be Cougar basketball as we come out of the break. Cougars in their home whites with the crimson numerals and the gray trim. Meanwhile, South Dakota State in their road blues, gold numerals and white trim. Tedder, Charlize Ledger-Walker, Marika Tete, Motuga, Wallach for Washington State, the original starting five. Meanwhile, for South Dakota State, looks like their same starting five out there as well. And we get the second half underway. Washington State with the basketball as we open up quarter number 3 tonight from Beasley Coliseum. Tedder feeds it inside to Bella Marika Tete. She's going to get run into as far as traffic is concerned. Puts up a shot in traffic, but Burkhardt doing a pretty good job defensively. Will pull down the missed shot and the rebound, and now South Dakota State with their first offensive trip. Nelson around a screen, passes it out. Colbeck into the corner. With it over there is going to be Timmer. Back outside it will go. Now inside to Burkhardt. Little 10-footer that's short. And the rebound to Charlize Ledger-Walker, but can't save it from going out of bounds, and it will stay with South Dakota State. Well, on the radio side of things tonight, glad to have you with us on News Talk for the Palouse, AM 1150, KQQQ in Pullman, 102.1 on the FM side. There's a nice move to the basket, and that one up and good from Maya Selland. And the Jackrabbits, who went the entire third quarter without a field goal, get their first field goal here of the second half, and with that, we're even at 21 apiece for our second tie of the contest. Charlize Ledger-Walker, little hold there by Ellie Colbeck. The freshman out of Fergus Falls, Minnesota, will be nicked with her first personal. First on either team here in the second half, and the Cougars will inbound right out in front of me. Brought in to Tedder. Tedder gives it to Wallach. Wallach looking inside, finds Bella at the high post, spins to the hoop. Fakes a shot, now will fire from 15, and that one good from Bella Marika Tete. 9 points for Bella. Of course, had a fantastic finishing game over in Hawaii in the win over Troy, and has done a good job here tonight to help lead the Cougars. Ball knocked away by Motuga. Bella there to pick up the loose ball, and the Cougars back with it with a 23-21 lead. Tedder with the burst of speed, draws the foul. You can count the basket, and a chance at a three-point play for Johanna Tedder. Ellie Colbeck whistled for the foul. Little hip check on Colbeck, and Tedder with the hoop, and a chance at a three-point play. Tedder with that one, the first Cougar to get to double digits tonight. She's got 10, and you can make it 11 as she'll knock down the free throw, and the Cougars now with a 5-point lead, 26-21. By the way, in that contest against Troy, we're talking about Bella, about 22-16 in that win over the Trojans. Nice move by Burkhardt, and there's Bella standing strong. Knocks it out of bounds, and a block shot for Bella Marika Tete. We've talked about her improvements since stepping foot on campus, and does a great job of holding her ground there and going up vertically. You know, Burkhardt gets it out top of the key. Her three's off the mark, and Bella's going to rip down the rebound. Marika Tete will get her fifth rebound to go along with 9 points. Now Motuga has it right in the paint. Kicks out to Wallach. She's got a burst of speed into the lane and all the way to the bucket to lay it up and in. Now the Cougars are finding a little bit of offense. Up by 7, and an early timeout here in the second half by Aaron Johnston. The Cougars, who were so slow out of the gate, burst out in the second half, going 3 for 4. And have outscored the Jackrabbits 7 of the first 9 points here in the third quarter to the Cougars. With that, 7:46 to play in the third. It's Washington State by 7, 28-21. And the timeout will become a media break as well, so we'll step aside from Pullman. This is Cougar Women's Basketball from Lairfield. Only 8 points in the first quarter, 13 in the second, but have scored 3 of their first 4 makes here in the third. And have already put up 7 points in this third quarter, now out to a 28-21 lead. Their biggest lead of the contest is we've got 7:46 left to play third quarter action. South Dakota State with the ball out of the timeout. Comes out to the top of the key to Timmer. Timmer from the foul line. Kicks out to Burkhardt. Over it goes to Selland. Selland looking inside. Now cross-courts it over to the far side. Shot from about 13 feet away off the mark. No good. Rebound down to Burkhardt. Puts up a shot. Won't go. But at last touches Washington State. And will stay with South Dakota State. 20 put back on the shot clock for the Jackrabbits. 7:27 left to play here in the third. Selland will take the inbounds pass right of the paint. Gives it out to the top of the key to Timmer. Driving on Tedder. Gets cut off. Ball knocked away by Wallach. Then Tedder tries to go and get it from midcourt. Now Ula Motuga providing the defense, and she'll be whistled for the foul as she makes contact with Maya Selland. So Motuga will pick up her first. Haven't had a ton of fouls in this one. That's the first here of the half on Washington State. South Dakota State's been whistled for a couple so far here in the third quarter. 7:10 left to play in the third. It's Washington State by 7. Burkhardt a 3 from the top of the key. Off the iron, no good, but an offensive rebounds for South Dakota State. Nelson rips it down, gives it to Selland. Back outside it will come to Nelson. Tries to go back into Selland, but grabbing her from behind will be Charlize Ledger-Walker, and she's going to pick up her second personal. So first 2 fouls of the quarter against the Jackrabbits, but the Cougars have now picked up a couple in the last minute or so, and we're even now with 2 apiece in the foul department in the third. South Dakota State will again inbound. Over in the far corner with it is Timmer. Looks to pass off. Over as an outlet will come Nelson. They try and fire it inside. Too much traffic there. Charlize Ledger-Walker looking for numbers. Kicks it out to Wallach at the three-point line. Now Tedder ahead of the key. Fakes the 3, drives in. Kicks it over to Bellis. She's going to attack. Meanwhile, a foul whistled on the defender, grabbing her at the waist. Maya Selland is going to pick up her second personal. Was pretty good defense from the get-go from Maya, but I think she just had a little tug at the waist that caused them both to go down, and that's what drew the whistle for Michael Price. So the Cougars inbound, 20 put back on the shot clock, 6:34 left to play in the third. Charlize Ledger-Walker on the give and go off the inbounds pass, won't get it to drop though, and the rebound comes down this time to South Dakota State, and they'll bring it across the timeline. New player in for them, Mathewitz came down with the rebound. Now it's at the high post, over to Mathewitz, fakes the 3, now we'll put one up from 17, that's in and out, rebound down to Bella Muricatete. Bella gets her 6, so 9 and 6 so far for the senior. Pass inside, they're gonna say that's off of Wallach. Tried to feed it inside. Think that the South Dakota State player first had a hand on it, Volostin, but then they said it touched Tara right before it went out of bounds. There was another look at it. Tough to get a real clean look there, but perhaps off of Tara. And it'll be South Dakota State basketball with just under 6 to play in the third. Mastovitz into the paint, puts one up from 10, that one good. So Madison Mathewitz has her first 2. Meanwhile, the Cougars quickly back up court. Wallach at the three-point arc to Tedder. Motuga open for 3, got it! Ula Motuga with a triple. And the Cougar lead is 8. It's 31-23 as she fires and connects from the left wing. Now South Dakota State back on the offensive end. Mathewitz with it head of the key. She'll put one up from the foul line. That one's going to rim, glass, rim, rebound through a couple sets of hands before Motuga grabs it. Now Tedder takes over. She'll bring it up court. Burst of speed into the paint, loses the basketball. South Dakota State with it the other way. Not really numbers, 3-on-3. Gilton will give it into the corner. hits the trailer. With it down low is Timmer. Tries to pass it outside, but it's intercepted by Tedder. Beautiful pass up court to Charlize Ledger-Walker, giving it to Tara Wallach, filling up a lane. And the Cougars run that transition to Butte. And it's now a 10-point Washington State lead, 33-23. Pass comes into the near corner for South Dakota State. Colassen's got it. Over to this time Thiessen. Now comes back over to the left wing. They get it back inside. Little up and under. They're going to call a walk on Callie Thiessen. Takes us to 4:31 left to play here, third quarter. And by the way, I'm sorry, it's Kelly Tyson. Tyson whistled for the travel. And with that, a turnover for South Dakota State. It'll be Cougar basketball when we return after the timeout. 4:31 left to play in the third. It's Washington State 33, South Dakota State 23. This is Cougar women's basketball from Learfield. Well, it's now the Washington State University Cougars by 10. It was South Dakota State by as many as 11 after a 12-0 run in the opening quarter. Now the Cougars have their first double-digit lead of the ball game, as they've outscored South Dakota State 12-4 here in the third quarter. For South Dakota State, just 7 points in the last 15 and a half minutes. And the Cougars so far in the third quarter, 5 out of 7. South Dakota State 2 for 9 so far in the first 5.5 of the third. Washington State with the ball, working with the 10-point lead. Tedder to Charlize Ledger-Walker. Inside to Bella Muricatete. Finds the cutter, Tara Wallach. Reverse layup up and in. The sophomore from South Surrey, Canada, on the reverse layup now has 8. And the Cougar lead out to a dozen, 35-23. 4 minutes and counting left to play now, third quarter. Gilton off a screen, gives it into the corner. 3 from Burkhardt on the way off the side of the rim. Rebound to Ula Matuga. Washington State working on a 7-0 run over the last minute 45. Back with the basketball. Tedder, top of the key, comes off a Bella screen. All the way down the lane to scoop it up and in for 2 more. Johanna Tedder now has 11. And actually, going to do the math on that one, actually make it now 13 for Johanna Tedder. And it's 37-23 in favor of Washington State. Velastin the other way, 3 off the mark, no good. Rebound comes down to Washington State. Tedder into forecourt, scoops it off to Ula Matuga. She finds Bell at the top. She'll hand off to Wallach. Wallach is going to go down to the baseline, gets cut off there, so circles back around. Skips it back out to Tedder. Now inside it goes to Muricatete. All the way with the right hand, draws the foul, and will head to the free throw line. Brooklyn Meyer going to be nicked for the foul. That'll be her first. And Bella to the free throw line, trying to join Tedder as the 2 Cougars in double digits. Tedder, a little bit of a slow start scoring this season, averaging just under 9 points per game. Scored a dozen points in each of the games against BYU and Troy over in Hawaii. Meanwhile, Bella's first free throw up and good, so she does join Tedder to double digits. But Yo with her season high today with 13. Now Bella trying to pick up her 11th point. That one's going to rim off, no good. Matuga tips the rebound over to her teammate Charlize Ledger-Walker. It won't go, but a foul whistled, and it's going to go on Selland. So Charlize to the free throw line. Selland, by the way, picking up her 3rd. Meanwhile, Charlize will get her first 2 free throws of the day. First one up and good. Then a low-scoring game for Charlize, just her 3rd point, but the Cougars on a nice run here, scoring the last 11. Next free throw up, that one's good as well, so make it 12 in a row for Washington State. South Dakota State hasn't scored in nearly 3 minutes. Meanwhile, the Cougars have gone on a 12-0 run over the last 2:45. All right, 40-23, Washington State up by 17 now. A whistle away from the ball. Looks like a grab going to be called on Tedder. Cougar coaching staff saw the foul. They thought it should have been the other way, but Instead, they'll call it on Yeo. That'll be her first. Third against Washington State. Pass comes into Sellen, out of the top of the key. Back over to Sellen. She drives it to the lane, tries to pass it inside. That's off the foot of Bill and a kick call. And it will be inbounded on the baseline for South Dakota State with the fresh 20. 2:39 left to play, third quarter. Cougs by 17 here, 40-23. Pass goes over to Mathewitz, over on the left wing. Back up top to Gilton. Gilton wants a screen, gets it from Sellen. Now a cross quarter over into the far corner. They feed it inside. On her way to the hoop goes Tyson. That one won't go. Rebound on the weak side down to Ula Motuga. Charlize Ledger-Walker fires it inside to Wallach, back outside to Motuga. Now they rotate it around the arc. Bella Maricatete going to drive in, spins to the left, little left-handed flip, in and out, everything but the finish that time for Bella. And the rebound comes down to South Dakota State with 2 minutes left to play in the third. With it is Colaston, gets it inside to Tyson. Foul whistled on the drive. That'll be the fourth against Washington State. They're going to call a foul on Ula Motuga. That's going to be her second. Meanwhile, Estera Tuhina, AT, will check in. She'll come in for Motuga. And the ball brought in on the baseline. It's now been 1 second shy of 4 minutes since the last points for South Dakota State. And the Cougs have gone on a 12-0 run to again jump this lead out to 17 late in the third. Colbeck off a screen, puts one up from 17. That one's off the mark, no good. Tahina joins the fray for the rebound. Long down court pass, but through the hands of Bella. Like the look from Tahina, but maybe just a little too aggressive with a 17-point lead. And with it, a change on the other side of things as Timmer will check in. Cougs have done a relatively good job of taking care of the basketball. They had 6 turnovers at halftime, 3 so far here in the third. They've got 9 turnovers compared to the 10 for South Dakota State. Minute and a half left to play, third quarter. Cougs by 17. All the way to the rack goes Nelson. She'll draw a foul and will head to the free throw line. Bella's going to pick up her third, and it'll send Tori Nelson to the line to shoot a couple. Well, again, for South Dakota State, offense has just been a struggle here since the opening quarter. They weren't necessarily on fire in the first quarter. They were 7 out of 18, but they have gone 2 for 23 cents. Here's the free throw. That one's off the mark. 0 for 10 in the second quarter for South Dakota State, and just 2 out of 13 here in the third. Second free throw is good, so Nelson splits the pair. Again, that ends the drought at 4 minutes and 30 seconds. But the lead still at 16 for Washington State, 40-24. Charlize Ledger-Walker into the corner to Wallach, brings it back out top to Tedder. Just over a minute left to play here, third quarter action. Tahina's got it left wing, starts her way into the paint, draws a foul, and she'll go to the line because South Dakota State's over the limit. Fouls on Nelson, that'll be her first, and the freshman Estera Tuhina to the free throw line. Estera so far this season for Washington State, averaging 7.5 points per game. First free throw on the way, and that one's up and good. Tina, not a starter for the Cougars, but still averages about 26 minutes per contest. Has her first free throw. Now her second one is on the way. That one will hit the front of the iron and fall off, but goes 1 out of 2 from the line for her first point in the contest. And the Cougs by 17 again, 41-24, as we're under a minute to play in the third. Nelson down the left side of the lane. Nobody stopped her, and she'll take it all the way to the cup to lay it up and in. Tori Nelson has a half a dozen, and the lead for Washington State is 15. 35 left to play here in the third quarter. 20 left on the shot clock. About 14, 15 second separation. And Johanna Tedder doesn't care about that. She's just going to drain a triple from the left wing. Johanna Tedder with a season high 15 tonight. And the Cougar lead now, it's largest of the night at 44-26. Shot clock turned off, final quarter minute of the third. There's a three the other way, and that one good for the Jackrabbits as Timmer buries a three. So she hits a three for South Dakota State. Cougars trying to get one more look at it. Nankervis can't get the handle, and the third quarter comes to a close. Well, some offense for Washington State, I should say so. After scoring just 21 points in the first half, they outscore that output in the third 10 minutes. They put up 23 in the third and outscore South Dakota State 23-10. And their lead has jumped from a 2-point lead at halftime to a 15-point advantage heading into the final 10 minutes. It's Washington State 44, South Dakota State 29. We'll step aside. This is Cougar Women's Basketball from Learfield. Well, Washington State in that third quarter, they were able to go 8 out of 11 in the third quarter, shot 73%. That after struggling in the first half of action. The first half saw the Cougars put up just 21 points total, and they shot just 28% in the first half, but 8 out of 11 in that third quarter, shooting 73%. Meanwhile, for South Dakota State, 4 out of 15 in the quarter. So far for the game, the Cougars at 40%, South Dakota State at 26%, and with it, the Cougars a 15-point lead heading into the fourth. South Dakota State starts with it. The ball is brought into the paint. We're going to have a whistle, and it was either a travel or a three in the key. It was kind of blocked out by what our official down there had for the whistle. Is in amongst the big bodies was Felicity Willis, but it's a turnover on the South Dakota State team, and it will be Washington State ball. Opening minute of the fourth, it's the Cougs by 15, 44-29, trailed by 8 at the end of one. They were down double digits late in the opening quarter, took a 2-point lead at halftime, and now a 15-point lead to start the fourth. Charlie Sledger-Walker penetrates in, will draw the contact, and will head to the free throw line. That foul called on Tyson. So she'll pick up her first, and it will send Charlize back to the free throw line. Mentioned Ledger-Walker, not a big scoring night to this point, but she can put up points in a hurry. Hits the free throw now, 3 out of 3 from the line on the evening, has 5. Second free throw also up and good, so 6 now for Charlize, averaging 22 per game this season and 83% from the foul line. All right, Cougs by 17, 46-29. Mathewitz to the foul line, kicks it out to Colbeck, and then as they try and feed it inside, a grab from behind called. We're going to call that one on Emma Nankervis. That'll be her first. So each team with an early foul here in the fourth quarter. Meyer will take the inbounds pass for South Dakota State, feeds it to Colbeck. Sellen posting up on Nankervis, and they're going to call another foul on Emma on the post up. That'll be her second, and again, South Dakota State to inbound. So a couple of quick fouls whistled against Washington State. Sellen takes the inbounds pass, goes baseline, passes it out. Tahina had it, lost it, and it will stay with South Dakota State. They say no possession by Tahina, so the shot clock will stay where it's at. 16 left for South Dakota State to get a shot up with 9:09 left to play in the fourth. Colbeck's got it around the right side. Into the corner it goes. Mathewitz will put one up from 15. That's off the back of the rim, and Wallach down with the rebound. Tedder is the leading scorer tonight with 16. Brings it across the timeline. She's got it back. Gives it to Charlize Ledger-Walker. The kick out. Now back outside to Tahina. Feeds it to Tedder between the circles. Now Charlize Ledger-Walker with it. Screen from Nankervis. Charlize down to the free throw line. A kick out to Tahina for a triple. That one off the iron, no good. And in for the rebound will go South Dakota State and Tori Nelson. In traffic comes up the sideline, and a foul whistled on Estera Tahina. Her second personal, so a few early fouls against Washington State. They've got 3 now in the quarter, just a minute and a half in. 8.5 left to play in the contest. It's Washington State now by 17, 46-29. Colbeck down to the baseline. With it there, into the lane will go Nelson. Now over to Sellen, trying to get around Charlize Ledger-Walker. Instead passes out to Mathewitz. She drives, puts up a shot, won't go, but they'll call the foul on Johanna Tedder. So Tedder will pick up her third, 4 against the Cougars, but that one called in the act of shooting. So Madison Mathewitz, the freshman from Sleepy Eye, Minnesota, will head to the free throw line. So Madison Mathewitz heading to the free throw line to shoot 2. Gets ready for her first free throw. That one on its way and good. Never heard of Sleepy Eye, Minnesota, but went to St. Mary's High School in Sleepy Eye. Second free throw off the mark. Rebound comes down to Sellen, so an offensive board for the Jackrabbits. Now Mathewitz back out head of the key. Kicks off to Sellen. She'll underhand it to a teammate. That teammate being Colaston. Now over to the right side from Meyer, who misses the shot from about 12 feet away. Tedder, long down court pass to Wallach. She secures. Back out. Tedder fakes the 3. Finds Bella Maricatete inside. They're going to call the foul on the pass. Bella was looking for the and one, but won't be given it. Did get a chuckle out of our official as Bella was pleading her case, but don't think they're going to give it to her. They're going to call the foul on Maya Sellen, is going to pick up her 4th. So inbounds pass coming up for the Cougars. It's just the second against South Dakota State. Sellen will stay in the game, and with the Jackrabbits down 16, probably the only call that can be made by Aaron Johnson. Wants to keep one of his leading scorers in the contest. 3 on the way from Tedder off the mark, but a rebound to Wallach, and we'll keep going. The shot doesn't draw iron, so the shot clock down to 7. Tahina trying to create, now passes out. Charlize Ledger-Walker for 3. That's off the iron, no good, and a good job of sealing off Bella, and coming away with the rebound will be Meyer. Gilton across the timeline. Finds Meyer out at the top of the key. Back over to Gilton. She feeds it inside to Sellen. She'll go to work, puts one up inside the paint, and rattles one home from about 11 feet away. Sellen's got 7. It's a 14-point game with 7 left to play. Bella trying to take charge, does just that as she rolls down the lane and forces one up and in. Bella's got a dozen, lead out to 16, and the Cougars are going to force another South Dakota State turnover. So Tedder leading the way with 16 for Washington State, but Bella having a strong performance, 12 and 6. Meanwhile, South Dakota State's going to call a timeout here with 6:49 left to play. It's going to become our media timeout of the 4th quarter. So we'll step aside and then take you the rest of the way. 6:49 left to play in our basketball game. Washington State trying to get to 5-1 on the season and stay perfect in this building. They're off to a pretty good chance of doing that. Up 16 with 6:49 to play. It's the Cougars 48, the Jackrabbits 32. We're back after this. Cougar women's basketball from Lairfield. Well, we welcome you back. Final 6:49 here. Washington State has gotten their offense going. They've done it in transition at times. As a matter of fact, for the Cougars, fast break points, they've got a couple of buckets. And again, a much better second half for Washington State shooting-wise. 9 out of 15 so far this half. That after they were shooting just 8 out of 29 in the opening half. So overall, their shooting percentage now up to 39% on the day. Meanwhile, South Dakota State only at 26%. And again, the Cougars up 48-32 here as we resume action. Charlize Ledger-Walker has it out at the top of the key after the timeout. The shot clock down to 12 now. Charlize goes back door to Bella. She scoops it over to the other side. Tara Wallach has the open lane. She'll put it up and in, and Tara, the 3rd Cougar to double digits, and some nice passing by the Cougars. Bella on the interior picking up the assist. 6.25 left to play here in the fourth. Cougs now by 18. Meanwhile, a nice drive to the hoop, but unable to finish. South Dakota State rebound, but that one also won't go for Meyer. And the rebound down to Washington State. 6 minutes left to play on our basketball game. It's the Cougs 50, the Jackrabbits 32. Tahina gives to Tedder. Tedder, top of the key, gives to Charlize Ledger-Walker. Corner for AT. That one's off the side of the rim. Bella an offensive rebound. One dribble, scoops it to Charlize Ledger-Walker, who finger rolls it in, and the Cougars get a couple of second chance points. 8 now for Charlize, and the lead is out to 20 now for Washington State. 5.5 left to play here, fourth quarter. With the ball out at the head of the key is Meyer. Meyer gives it over to the right side. There's a shot from Timmer inside. She'll put it up and in from about 10 feet away. So Haley Timmer has a 2-pointer. That goes with a 3 earlier, and it's now 5 for her, and it's 52-34. Tedder, top of the key, gives to Tahina. Now to Tedder, feeds it inside to Bella. Bella gonna attack the rim and puts it up and in for 2 more. 14 now for Bella Marikatete to go along with 8 boards, trying for a second consecutive game to go for a double-double after getting it against Troy in Hawaii. Couple boards shy of that right now. Meanwhile, for South Dakota State, again coming off that huge upset over Louisville. That was a week ago today that they knocked off the top 10 Louisville team, 65-55, won by 10. Right now down by 20 to the Cougars. Shot put up, Wallach there to harass. It won't go. 9th rebound of the contest for Bella. Skip pass over to Tedder. She finds Bella inside. Looks to pass. Now instead will start to attack one more time. Puts it up. That one won't go, but she's going to draw another foul. We'll head back to the free throw line. And last rebound for Bella, her 9th. So again, looking for another double-double. Already with 14 points in the contest. And we'll head to the free throw line after the foul whistled on Meyer, her second personal. So Bella back to the stripe as she gets ready for a couple. First one is on its way. That one's off the front of the rim, no good. So now 4 out of 7 from the free throw line. Now is ready for another one. This one up. That one's good. So 5 out of 8. She's got 15 points to go along with 9 boards. Looking for her 3rd double-double of the season and her 8th of her career. If she can haul in one more rebound. It's Colaston giving it off. Actually, check that. That was Meyer passing off to the left elbow. That shot won't go. Tahina able to grab the board for Washington State. And up court, they'll bring it. Wallach feeds it inside the Bell again. Again attacking. Puts it up with the left hand. Won't go. This time the rebound coming down to Meyer for South Dakota State. Now up court will come the Jackrabbits. Forcing the issue and drawing the foul is going to be Colbeck this time. And she'll head to the stripe. Foul called on Bella, so she'll pick up her 4th. Meanwhile, substitution for South Dakota State. We'll see Byam check into the contest. As Mesa Byam out of Melrose, Wisconsin checks in. Also into the contest is going to come Reagan Nessheim. So Aaron Johnson starting to clear his bench for 3:52 left to play. Colbeck hits the free throw. We'll have one more. South Dakota State will next be in action on Wednesday. They'll be in Bozeman to take on Montana State. Colbeck hits both free throws. South Dakota State will open up league play against Oral Roberts. Of course, South Dakota State out of the Summit League. Cougars will have the one Pac-12 game against the Huskies on the 11th and a few more non-conference. Shot put up by Tedder won't go, but a late whistle and a foul call. That one called against Byam. That'll be her first. Sends Tedder to the free throw line. Tedder's got 16 so far. It's been Tedder with 16, Murriquetete with 15, and Wallach with 10. The three Cougs to double digits. Tedder can't connect on her first free throw. Will have another. Has gone 1 out of 2 so far. The senior out of Estonia. Now the next free throw up. That one's good. Of course, decisions for all student athletes. They get the extra year should they want it. Ula Motuga opting to do just that. She's a fifth-year player for Washington State, so Cougars will have a couple of seniors that will have that option if they want to use a fifth year. Meanwhile, the pass over to the far sideline, that's off the hand of Colbeck, and a turnover for South Dakota State. That'll be their 14th of the night. Cougars had 6 in the first half, only 3 so far in the second half, as they've got 9 turnovers on the game. 3:15 left to play. It's the Cougs by 20, 56-36. Sarver's checked in. She gives to Wallach, now near side to Hina. Tahina back out to the top of the key. Feeds it inside to Tara Wallach. She'll get herself situated. Ball hangs on the rim, falls off. Battle for the rebound in there. It's going to be tied up. Jump ball, possession arrow will rest with Washington State. So the Cougars will get the ball, and it will be brought in on the baseline. On the held ball. That's also going to be the 10th board for Bella Murriquetete, so her third double-double of the season. Meanwhile, the inbounds pass will come in to Tara Wallach. By the way, back-to-back double-doubles now for Bella. Meanwhile, the Cougars turn it over for the first time in the quarter, and back the other way will come South Dakota State. Out high on the left, the pass comes to the top of the key to Byam. She feeds it back over. 3 ball on the way. That one's in and out for South Dakota State. That was Coloston who put it up. Rebound to the Cougars. Sarver to Bella. Tries to feed it inside to Tara, but that one too tall, and it'll be South Dakota State basketball. Again, the Cougars saw South Dakota State score 12 in a row against them in the first quarter, and the Cougars were down 11 in this contest, 14-3. But for South Dakota State, just have not been able to get their offense going after scoring 16 in the first. They've had only 20 since, as that one ends up out of bounds. That's 20 points in nearly 28 minutes of action for South Dakota State. They opened up this game shooting 7 out of 18. They have gone 6 for 35 since then. Wallach at the top of the key, gives it to Tahina. Now Charlize Ledger-Walker gets it down to the baseline, gets cut off, ball poked away, and will stay with the Cougars. Into the game will come Gardner. She'll check in for Wallach. Jessica Clark unable to go today. She's over in the sweats at the end of the bench. Gardner, one of the newbies for the Cougs, freshman out of Raymond, Washington. Charlize Ledger-Walker will put one up from 13. That's off the mark. Ball in and out of the hands of Tahina, and then as she tries to chase it down, stayed after it long enough to where it was knocked out, last touching South Dakota State. Minute 44 left to play on this one. Again, the Cougars with the win would improve to 5-1. Meanwhile, for South Dakota State, they would drop to 4-3. Cougars back in action this weekend when they take on the Montana Grizzlies and our old pal Brian Holsinger. Tahina brings it back out. Charlize Ledger-Walker for 3. Got it! Well, on a night where you're not sure if Charlize will get to double digits, that'll get her there. She's got 11. And it's 59-36. She becomes the 4th Cougar to double digits. Meanwhile, on the other end, Coloston with the hoop. So she gets a bucket. She's got her first 2, and it's now 59-38. And again, Charlize, again, on what's not been a great night for her shooting-wise, 3 out of 12, now is able to get 2 more and has still found a way to get to 13 points tonight. So again, still finds the way to get it done. She's gotten to double digits 53 times in her career now. That's how she's a 1,000-point scorer in her career at Washington State. Shot short, won't go. Rebound comes down to Gardner. Gardner across the timeline. Will hand it off to server. Now to Bella Muricatete. Inside to Charlize again. Kicks out. Gardner. 3-ball on the way. Off the mark, no good. Charlize a rebound. Ball knocked away from her. And South Dakota State will have it for the final 25 seconds. Probably try to look to put it up one more time, but this one's going to go down as a Cougar victory tonight. Colbeck out to the outside. Volostin's got it there with 12 seconds left to go. Back out top to Colbeck. Colbeck back over to Colostin. Now 6 seconds. She'll fire up a 3, and that one good. So the last 3 to South Dakota State, but Washington State still comes away with a 20-point victory tonight. They were down 11 late in the first quarter, but after that, scuffled their way through to take a 2-point halftime lead, and then just simply took control in the second half, outscoring South Dakota State 40-22 in the second 20 minutes. And the Cougars come away with a 61-41 victory. 4 players to double digits. Johanna Tedder, 17. Bella Muricatete, second straight double-double for her, 15 points and 11 boards. 13 from Charlie Sledger-Walker, and Terrell Wallach chipped in 10 as well. The Cougars still undefeated at Beasley this season. Haven't played a lot here, but still undefeated, and now 5-1 on the season. South Dakota State, they dropped to 4-3. Your final tonight, Washington State 61, South Dakota State 41.